Today, we're doing something a bit different. Instead of, wading through tons of documents, we're focusing deep on just one sentence. Sometimes peeling back the layers on a single piece of information tells you more than, well, than a whole stack of report.
Absolutely. It's about the precision, isn't it? The careful dissection of language.
Exactly. And our focus today, it's an excerpt from an article rather strikingly titled Trump's Heaven Obsession. Now, before we even start, let's be super clear about our mission here.
Right. Crucial point.
We are not here to debate the person, their beliefs, politics, any of that. No. Our job today is to put one specific reported statement under the microscope, analyze the language, the framing, how it's presented.
And that is the core of what we're trying to do. We want to unpack the exact words used, what the sources reportedly said, and how that framing works. We're deliberately stepping back from saying if it's true or not, or bringing in outside stuff. We're just looking closely at the details as reported. It's a skill, really learning to read information critically.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so let's get to it. The key piece of info, and this is attributed in the article to White House sources, is this quote: Trump is constantly talking about heaven, and he is not fully well. Just that, one sentence. Seems simple, maybe, but there's a lot going on beneath the surface.
There really is. And just to reiterate for you listening, our approach is strictly impartial. We're trying to understand what the sources, through their reported words, are actually conveying. We're not signing off on the content, not refuting it, just analyzing how it's built, how it's presented.
Yeah.
Especially in these high-stakes political contexts.
Right, building that critical lens. Okay, let's unpack it. Starting right at the beginning, White House sources revealed. What does that phrase signal immediately? It's not an official announcement, is it?
No, definitely not. That phrasing, White House sources, is key. It tells you straight away, this isn't the institution speaking formally. It's attributed to people inside, but they're anonymous. That anonymity is, well, it's significant. Well, official statements have institutional weight, accountability. This is different. Information from unnamed sources often implies an insider view, maybe something that wouldn't be said on the record. Think about, the history of anonymous sources in political reporting. They can offer crucial context, but also sometimes they're used strategically.
Strategically. And what about the word revealed? That sounds quite deliberate.
Exactly. Revealed implies something hidden being brought to light. It's not just stated or even leaked, which could be accidental. Revealed feels intentional. Like someone wanted this specific information out there, but without the official stamp. It creates this sense of getting a peek behind the curtain, privileged information. It bypasses the formal channels, shapes the narrative, maybe suggests that the environment doesn't allow for this observation to be made openly. It's a narrative tool.
A narrative tool. I like that. It definitely gives it a different feel than just, sources say. It makes you lean in, wonder why it's being revealed this way, who benefits. How does this framing make you feel about the information before you even process the content?
Precisely. The framing primes your reaction.
Okay, so that's the sourcing. Now, let's move to the first actual observation they revealed. Trump is constantly talking about heaven. The word heaven itself is, well, it's a loaded term. And then constantly, what does that specific combination convey?
Yeah, let's break that down. Constantly talking about heaven, that word constantly. It's doing a lot of work there. It suggests more than just frequency. It implies a pattern, something persistent, something noticeable enough for these insiders to flag it.
So not just an offhand comment.
Right. It suggests there's a recurring theme, maybe something unusual or unexpected in the context of their daily observations. It implies a kind of preoccupation, maybe.
And heaven, why focus on that specific word?
Well, heaven carries enormous symbolic weight, doesn't it? We're steering clear of theology here, of course. But think about what it represents generally. It can be spiritual aspiration, escapism, maybe even in some context, a rhetorical device to evoke certain feelings or ideas.
A rhetorical device? What do you mean?
I mean, using the word strategically to communicate something beyond its literal meaning, perhaps to signal a certain state of mind or a focus that seems out of step with, say, typical political concerns. For the sources to highlight this topic and its persistence, it suggests they see this focus on heaven as significant, maybe telling. It certainly sets a different tone than discussing policy or, day-to-day politics.
It does paint a very specific picture. The constantly makes it sound intense, like a defining trait they observed. It gives it real weight.
Yes. The intensity is implied.
Okay, now the second part of the sentence, which lands with quite a thud. And he is not fully well. That's incredibly direct. Stark, almost. How do we analyze a claim like that, especially from anonymous sources?
Right, and this is where we have to be really careful. Not fully well. It's obviously subjective. It's an assessment, a perception coming from these unnamed sources. It's definitely not a medical diagnosis.
Crucially, yeah.
It's their interpretation of something. And putting that phrase into the political sphere anonymously, that's a big move. It's not just describing a physical state. It's casting doubt, potentially, on capacity, on fitness,
So it's more about the impact of the phrase.
impact and intent, perhaps. It's a powerful way to sort of subtly delegitimize or raise questions without needing concrete proof. It plants a seed. And crucially, again, we have to remember, this is the source's viewpoint being reported, not established fact. The fact that this phrase was included right after the heaven part suggests the sources see a connection, that they felt this assessment was important enough to reveal alongside the other observation.
That distinction is so important. We're analyzing the report of a perception, not the perception itself, let alone a medical reality. Which brings us to how these two pieces fit together. Constantly talking about heaven and he is not fully well, presented back to back like that. Are the sources implying these things are linked? What's the narrative they seem to be building?
Well, putting them together in one breath absolutely creates a strong implication of connection. The structure suggests the heaven talk might be seen by the sources as evidence for, or at least related to, the not fully well assessment.
So one part justifies the other, in a way.
Or at least lends weight to it. It constructs a narrative. They aren't just two separate bullet points. They're fused into a single assessment. The phrasing encourages you, the reader or listener, to infer a link, maybe cause and effect, maybe correlation, even though none is explicitly stated or, proven.
Right. Like if they just said he's not fully well, you'd immediately ask, based on what?
Exactly. But by front-loading it with a constantly talking about heaven part, they provide a kind of behavioral anchor, something concrete sounding for the audience to latch onto. The first observation almost primes you to accept the second one. It's rhetorically very effective.
Wow. Okay.
And that's why this close reading matters so much for you, the listener. You need to see these connections being built. Pay attention to the exact words. Who's saying it? These anonymous White House sources, and what story the structure itself is telling. It helps you separate reported claims from implied narratives, and that's key to navigating complex information, understanding the how and the why behind the what.
That's such a crucial takeaway, being aware of the narrative threads, even in a single sentence. So just to recap, we've looked at the nature of White House sources revealed, the specific implications of constantly talking about heaven, and the subjective weight of not fully well, and importantly, how they're deliberately linked.
We have. And it shows how much can be packed into seemingly simple reports, how much strategy can be involved in sharing or revealing information. So maybe a final thought for you to chew on. What does this act, the act of these specific combined observations being revealed anonymously tell you? What does it suggest about how information flows or is controlled in these really high-pressure environments? And how does that process ultimately shape what we think we know?
A really important question. It definitely makes you think twice about how you consume news. Thank you for joining us on this very focused deep dive. It shows just how much depth there can be in the details. Keep exploring, keep asking those questions about the information you encounter. We'll see you next time.